The day had finally arrived, a moment that would go down in history. The world was watching as Donald J. Trump stood on the steps of the United States Capitol, preparing to take the oath of office as the 45th President of the United States. The morning was crisp and clear, with a chill in the air that seemed to heighten the sense of anticipation. Rows upon rows of people had gathered on the National Mall, waving flags and cheering or, in some cases, silently protesting. The atmosphere was charged, a mixture of hope, skepticism, and curiosity. Trump stood tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his signature red tie neatly in place. His family stood behind him, Melania poised and elegant as ever, her serene expression giving little away. As he looked out over the crowd, his face was calm, betraying none of the emotions that might have been stirring inside. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every detail, every moment, as Chief Justice John Roberts stepped forward to administer the oath of office. But just as Trump raised his right hand, something unexpected happened. A man in a dark suit, blending seamlessly with the surrounding security personnel, approached him. The man was unremarkable in appearance, neither tall nor short, with a face that could easily fade into a crowd. In his hand was a plain white envelope, sealed with red wax. Without a word, the man extended the envelope toward Trump. The gesture was so subtle, so discreet, that it went unnoticed by most of the crowd. Those standing nearby, Melania, Mike Pence, and a few others, exchanged confused glances but said nothing. Trump hesitated for a fraction of a second before taking the envelope. His fingers brushed the wax seal, and his sharp eyes took in the unfamiliar crest embossed on it. There was no writing, no indication of who had sent it. For a man accustomed to surprises, this one was unusual enough to give him pause. He slipped the envelope into his jacket pocket, nodding slightly to the messenger, who disappeared as quickly as he had appeared. Chief Justice Roberts cleared his throat, prompting Trump to return his focus to the moment at hand. The oath continued, his voice steady and strong as he repeated the words that would officially make him the leader of the free world. The crowd erupted into cheers, the anthem played, and the ceremony moved forward without a hitch. But as Trump waved to the crowd and exchanged pleasantries with the dignitaries around him, his mind kept drifting back to the envelope. What was inside? And why had it been given to him at such a critical moment? Hours later, after the parades, speeches, and celebrations, Trump finally found a moment of solitude in the Oval Office. The room, pristine and imposing, carried the weight of centuries of leadership. The desk before him, the iconic Resolute desk, seemed to demand action. But instead of diving into the stack of papers waiting for his signature, Trump reached into his pocket and pulled out the envelope. He held it under the light of the desk lamp, examining the red wax seal more closely. The crest was unfamiliar, an eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch, surrounded by a circle of stars. It resembled the Great Seal of the United States but was subtly different, as though it belonged to a secretive or lesser-known organization. The envelope itself was made of heavy, textured paper, giving it an air of importance. With a deliberate motion, Trump broke the seal and unfolded the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typewritten and unsigned. The message was brief but chilling. "Mr. President, you have been chosen for a task that will define the future of this nation. The choices you make in the coming days will determine the course of history. Trust no one. Instructions to follow." Trump read the note twice, his brow furrowing with each word. He leaned back in his chair, the weight of the message settling over him. Chosen for a task? And by whom? The lack of a signature or identifying mark only deepened the mystery. He was no stranger to cryptic messages or veiled threats, but this was different. It felt calculated, precise, and oddly personal. For a moment, he considered calling in his chief of staff or one of his trusted advisors. But the note's final warning, "Trust no one," stopped him. He folded the paper carefully and placed it back into the envelope, locking it in a drawer of the Resolute desk. Whatever this was, he needed time to think. The next morning, Trump awoke to a sense of unease. The usual barrage of news, briefings, and meetings filled his schedule, but the envelope lingered in the back of his mind. It wasn't until late that evening, after the White House had quieted down, that the next piece of the puzzle arrived. Package, small and unassuming, was delivered directly to the residence. It bore no return address, only Trump's name written in bold, block letters. Inside the package was a device that looked like a simple radio transmitter, along with a typed set of instructions. The note was as cryptic as the first. Turn on the device at exactly 11 p.m. Listen carefully. Trump glanced at the clock. It was 10:45 p.m. He felt a mix of irritation and intrigue. This felt like a game, and he didn't like being played. But his curiosity won out. At precisely 11 p.m., he switched on the device. Static filled the room for a moment before a voice, calm and measured, began to speak. Mr. President, this is the beginning of a new chapter. The decisions you make in the coming weeks will not only shape your presidency but the very fabric of this nation. There are forces at play that you cannot yet comprehend. We are here to guide you, but you must act with discretion and resolve. Do not attempt to trace this communication. Further instructions will be provided. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Trump staring at the device in silence. He tapped it a few times, but it remained lifeless. Who are these people? And what did they want? Over the next few days, Trump found himself pulled deeper into the mystery. More messages arrived, each one revealing small pieces of a larger, more complex puzzle. They spoke of shadow governments, covert operations, and a network of power that extended far beyond the traditional structures of Washington, D.C. The messages hinted at a threat looming on the horizon, something that could destabilize not only the United States but the entire world. Trump's usual bravado was tempered by the gravity of what he was learning. He began to notice things he hadn't before, subtle shifts in the behavior of those around him, whispers in the corridors of power, and decisions that seemed to be influenced by unseen hands. The warnings to trust no one now seemed more prescient than ever. One evening, as he reviewed yet another cryptic message, Trump decided to take action. He arranged a private meeting with a trusted ally, someone outside the usual circle of advisors. The meeting took place in a secure, undisclosed location, away from the prying eyes of the media and political operatives. Together, they began to piece together the fragments of information, trying to make sense of the larger picture. Weeks turned into months, and the mystery deepened. Trump found himself navigating a dual reality, one as the public face of the presidency, and another as a man caught in a web of secrets and intrigue. The decisions he made during this time were influenced by what he had learned, though he never revealed the full extent of his knowledge to anyone. The culmination of these events came during a high-stakes international summit. As world leaders gathered to discuss global security, Trump received one final message. It contained specific instructions, details of a plan that, if executed correctly, could prevent a catastrophic event. The plan required boldness and risk, but Trump knew he had no choice. In the end, the actions he took during that summit changed the course of history. The details of what transpired remain classified, known only to a select few. But those who were there recall a moment when Trump, standing before a room of skeptical leaders, made a decision that silenced his critics and solidified his place in history. Long after his presidency ended, Trump often thought back to that first envelope, the plain white one with the red wax seal. It had arrived during his oath of office, a symbol of the strange and unprecedented journey that lay ahead. He never discovered the full truth about the people behind it or their ultimate motives. But one thing was certain: that envelope had set in motion a chain of events that forever altered the trajectory of his life and the nation he had sworn to serve.